He was not at Iowa's heated debate last night, but Texas Governor Rick Perry now says he is going to announce his White House run tomorrow. Some of the other Republican candidates were asked about that.
We all need prayers, and I hope he offers a whole lot for everybody here on this stage. But you know what, aside from that, we also need jobs in this country, and I hope that if he does get in this race, he broadens and expands this dialogue about job creation. The people in this nation know that President Obama has had 2.5 years to get it right on the most important issue we face, expanding the economy and creating jobs. He's fundamentally failed us. So anyone who's going to expand this group a little bit and brings a little bit of savvy on the subject, I think is a net plus.
Oh, I'm very pleased that he's coming in because he represents the status quo, and I feel like I'm sort of separated from the other candidates with my strong belief in liberty and limited government and a different foreign policy and want to deal with the Fed, so he'll just dilute all their votes.
David Drucker is a writer for Roll Call. He joins me now. Hi, David.
Hey, good to be here.
So Rick Perry was there in spirit last night since the other candidates were talking about him, but I want to ask you about the timing of him entering the race tomorrow. By doing so, he missed last night's debate, and he basically misses the straw poll tomorrow. Is that a good strategy for him?
I don't think it's a bad strategy. You know, he's ramping up his campaign rather late compared to the other candidates, so it's been sort of a breakneck sort of speed thing for him to get this thing going from late spring until now. I don't see how he gains by entering the straw poll. He doesn't really need to be in the debate and share the stage with 8 other people. I could say that about any of the other candidates as well. It's just once you're a candidate and a known quantity running for president, you can't duck out of the debates. So there's another debate coming up in September. I think you guys are broadcasting it. I'm sure he'll be there. But I think this weekend is really going to be all about Rick Perry, his announcement, his travels from South Carolina to New Hampshire to Iowa on Sunday to Lincoln Day dinner. It's probably going to be a good news cycle for him.
So what does his entrance do to the field now?
Well, I think what you see now is a governor potentially that can bring the pizzazz and the red meat and the inspiration that Michelle Bachmann has filled so far in the campaign, along with the establishment credibility that has gone to Mitt Romney and to Tim Pawlenty to some degree, although he hasn't gained any traction. And so I think that we now have a new potential front runner in the race. It doesn't mean he's going to end up winning the nomination, but clearly he's got an experienced team with him. He's run big statewide races, and we're going to find out if he can run a national campaign. But I think that he enters the race as somebody who theoretically can get it done, as opposed to some of the other candidates where there were more questions at the outset.
So if he occupies some of the same real estate as Michelle Bachmann, what does this do to her candidacy?
Well, I actually think she has the most to lose by Rick Perry, because I think what she has brought to the race, and by the way, I think she's run a really solid race. I think she's defied expectations, and I think she's done really well, including last night. But I think he potentially hurts her the most because he can bring possibly the inspiration to the race that Republicans have been looking for, but at the same time have the establishment credibility in terms of being a chief executive, a governor, somebody with a record of running the government or a government. And that's something that Michelle Bachmann ultimately would lack, given that she served in the state legislature and has been a member of the House of Representatives for only a few years. It's a lot like the criticism Barack Obama had a few years ago when he was first running. And so that's why I think she has the most to lose, but so do a lot of other candidates if Rick Perry is everything that he's supposedly cracked up to be.
Has Rick Perry spent enough time in Iowa at this point?
Well, no, he hasn't spent enough time anywhere, but he hasn't been a candidate until now, and this is we're going to find out really what he's made of. Will he really vault to the top of the field in Iowa? Will he do so in New Hampshire, South Carolina, and Florida? We're going to find out if his brand sells. Every candidate, by the way, is pretty much beloved before they're an actual candidate. Now that he's going to be in the race, he's going to be taking shots. People in my industry are going to be going over his record with a fine-tooth comb, and that sometimes is problematic. And so we're going to find out if he can take the hits and if he also can bob and weave into these different states that require slightly different messages and see if it's well received.
Yeah, we'll see that on display this weekend as he hits South Carolina, New Hampshire, and Iowa. David Drucker, thanks so much for coming in.
Thanks, Allison.